Welcome to the Operations Science Podcast, where the art and science of operational excellence come to life through captivating stories of triumph, challenge, and transformation from the front lines of industry. Our distinguished guests, from manufacturing pioneers and medical device innovators to aerospace visionaries, diagnostic lab leaders, and major capital project leaders, unveil the hidden patterns and powerful insights that drive exceptional results in the complex world of operations. Join us on this journey of discovery as we explore the brilliant minds behind the systems that make our world work and uncover the leadership secrets that could revolutionize your approach to operations forever. Here is your host, Ed Pound.
Our guest today has spent his career at the intersection of aerospace manufacturing operations and people development. Starting in motorsport and mechanical engineering, he's worked in countries across 3 continents. He's worked in the United States, the United Kingdom, and Thailand. What truly distinguishes him is his philosophy on operational excellence. He has skillfully balanced a strong focus on effective processes with a genuine appreciation for people, creating an environment where both thrive together. At his current organization, he's orchestrated a cultural transformation that's delivered measurable wins, staff retention dropping from 22% to nearly 2%, safety performance hitting over 1,000 days without a recordable accident, and quality improvements that took non-conforming events to their lowest levels ever, all the while maintaining excellence in delivery and saving millions in cost reductions. Please welcome to the Operations Science Podcast, James O'Sullivan. Hey, James, how are you?
Hello, yeah. Hi, Ed. Pleased to be here. Nice to meet you.
Good to have you. Let's dive right into it. I want to start with something that you mentioned on our prep call, this idea that you can swing too far in either direction when it comes to operational excellence, either too focused on process or way too soft on people. What made you realize that balance was a key challenge? And then how do you resolve that balance?
Let's start at the beginning, right? I think anybody who's coming into a career with anything to do with lean manufacturing, operational excellence, the early stages is them learning the tools and they understand the different tools and systems that you can use. I think what you quickly realize as you move up into more leadership roles is the tools are useless unless you've got your team of people using them properly and they understand them and they're empowered to do so. So I think I believe that everybody's probably been through that cycle of, great, I got the tools and they all make sense and I know how to add value with them. Then you start trying to deploy them through people and it falls over. So for me, there's this sweet spot, right? You've got to have, we need to get people engaged in them. We need to get people so they understand them and they know how to use them. But we also need to be able to deliver business results. And in any OPEX system, I think there's a really fine balance to be struck between maintaining engagement of our teams and good understanding and giving a little and getting a little and creating that environment. But we have to deliver business results as well. It's no good if it swings too far towards the people and everyone feels great about it, but it's not delivering anything. And then vice versa, it goes over to the process side and we're really driving that hard and everybody's a bit disengaged with the whole thing. And therefore you might deliver some results, but they're not going to sustain and they're not going to create that longer term win that you're looking for out of that model.
Yeah, anybody, I just remember from my leadership roles, that's always the balance, right? Because people can push back. I remember working at a plant where they insisted on process and they were going to put all the operators through some sort of qualification stuff to get lean, and it really ended up backfiring, but it is a challenge. And what have you found in your experience that really makes that work, getting people engaged, works best? I'll give you an example. One of our, I guess on the last podcast, mentioned the idea of telling people, well, what we're really trying to do is make your job easier. Well, that's good to a certain extent, but you still have to get, as you mentioned, the business results. What works best for you in terms of engagement?
Well, ultimately, it really boils down to the leaders who are leading those teams. It's really, I think what's important is you need to understand what bugs them every day, right? You've got lots of things that are stopping them from doing their job well. There's some things that you'd probably say are, if they were to flag them to you, they might seem like something minor, and they might be something minor that makes virtually no difference to the overall business. But if you can start to give some of those small wins to those teams, you're going to get more back from them when some of the bigger stuff comes along. So it's listening, right? Listen to the teams, understand what's important to them, work out what we can give them fairly early. If there's some early wins and some low hanging fruit, so to speak, that allows them to start seeing that there's actually something in this for them. There's times where people come and ask for something and it's not going to, the business case doesn't stand up, and we're not going to spend a lot of money to not make a lot of money. But there's lots of opportunity just to get some small wins for their local area that just allows them to see that it's making a bit of a difference. And that means that they're on your side when the next initiative comes along.
Yeah, exactly. You want to have as little resistance as possible. I think you're going to always have some resistance, but that's just natural. But you don't want people to immediately resist when you suggest a new idea, and those small wins, you've kind of banked that, right? So that helps.
Yeah, and I would say keep it away from the senior leadership team. So, I mean, one of the things that we've put a lot of energy into is basically small improvements every day. We call them aims. All improvements matter, but it's the ability for anybody anywhere in the business to put forwards an improvement idea, and they get to see that through to completion. Many times that's not something that you need a senior leader's approval for. It can be managed at a supervisor level. We do monitor how many are going through, and we do some cool stuff around aim of the month, where we get to sort of competition and everyone votes for it. But what I don't want to do is create something that comes. I don't want to see every one of those. I want the local teams to be deciding what's important and what's going to get the resource, what's going to get the engineering support. So that's something else that works really well. And let go of it, right? Trust those teams in the local areas as to what they want to work on as a team, and they'll vote for it themselves.
Indeed. Yeah, that's brilliant, actually. So you said it was AIMS. What does AIMS stand for?
All improvements matter.
All improvements matter. Okay.
And what was cool about that was we knew we wanted to create Kaizen, right? Small improvements every day. But rather than me and the leadership team going and building a system, we gave that to a local team. We got champions from all the different areas and all the different functions. They came up with that name. They came up with a system that was going to be deployed alongside daily management. So it's all part of that same system. Did they build the most perfect system straight away? No, not really. We may have been able to do a better job. But what was amazing about it was automatically I had 20 champions out in the business. Those 20 champions then, when somebody starts maybe picking holes in the system, you've got somebody in that local team that says, hang on a second, we've built this and let me explain why we did it. The other thing it meant was that team stayed together as a cohort. They would regularly meet and look at improvements to that system. So it continually improved. They got feedback from all the different areas. It was all dealt with locally, and that system has come on leaps and bounds. They created the competition. They vote on the competition for aim of the month and aim of the year. There's some great prizes we give away for that. So it really was genuinely created by the teams, owned by the teams, and has improved steadily up until today, where it's just continually getting better.
Indeed. That sounds like a great setup. Along those lines, you created something called the Mancunian Way. I believe that's based on the Shingo framework, and put it into language that worked for your team. Walk through that process. Is AIMS part of that? Is that different? Explain that a little bit.
So we're based in Manchester in the UK. Everybody who's from Manchester is a Mancunian. And the Mancunians have a certain way of doing things. So when we started looking at our OPEX system that we were going to develop, we wanted to link it back to the pride that people have in Manchester as a place. It's a great place to live. It's got steeped in history. It's got all sorts of cool stuff going on to this day. So we wanted to create that link, and that's where the Mancunian way of doing things came from. When we looked at the Shingo model, we loved everything about it, and it's a fantastic model, but we looked at some of the language that's used in it, and we weren't sure it was going to click with our local teams. So we basically took the principles from Shingo and we created our own triangle, which has got our own language in it. So, for example, the Shingo model is based on cultural enablers, continuous improvement, and an enterprise alignment. So it's basically people, process, and purpose. We just took that and we put it into our own language. And an example of that might be embrace scientific thinking is the Shingo guiding principle. We said we're going to use data to solve problems the Mancunian way. So that's something that our teams probably can relate to better. Respect every individual would be a Shingo principle. We've said we are good listeners and open to change. So same idea, and ultimately we'll get the same result, but now we've got a little bit more of a tie for the way we do it here, and that's been great for how our teams get involved in it.
Again, brilliant. That really takes advantage of the local culture and the local talents. And the scientific thinking that's near and dear to my heart with operations science. A question about that though. So Hologic, where you work now, has sites across many different countries, and obviously you're not going to have the Mancunian way in all different countries because it's unique to Manchester. But has the company been able to use that sort of approach to manage globally and develop locally?
Everyone's taken their own sort of spin on it. We've had great success with the Mancunian Way, and we've shared, we share as much as we can. Our sister site is in San Diego. They've got the sunny San Diego way, right? And all you US listeners know why, right? So I think there's an element of it's flexibility within the framework. You've got certain things that we want to do to make sure that this is going to deliver what we want, but have some fun with it and make it local and not let the team have some input into that. And we've seen that across a number of our sites, both in operations and in supply chain as well.
Well, that sounds like a great approach. And when you developed the Mancunian Way, was that the sort of the catalyst for all these other sites to develop their own, or was there sort of a general corporate effort? How did that work?
So I suppose there's a couple of things. We're a fairly big, Logic's a fairly big business, but we don't have any global operating system. So when I joined Logic, I got this great opportunity to shape something from scratch, which is scary because you're doing everything from scratch. All of these standards, the way it glues together, the way it links into other business initiatives. But it was great, right? Because I took a lot of the experience that I've taken from my past in aerospace and in other lean organizations, and I got to deploy that in my own way. The way that it worked within the business, the original question here was around how it linked in with other parts of the business.
Yeah, and did you develop the Mancunian Way, and then that sort of became the catalyst for other sites, but it sounds like that was the way it emerged. It wasn't that you had a global or corporate operating system.
Yeah, it wasn't a corporate operating system. We saw one of our sites in Costa Rica won a Shingo prize. And when we saw that and we sent some people over there, that got everybody very excited. And they run an excellent site over there. But the Mancunian Way and the way in which we've done it and the way we've spun it to make it link to that local pride was probably the first time we've done that. And with the great success we've had from it, we've seen lots of people try and do their own version of it.
So following up on the Mancunian Way, let's talk about results you achieved. You mentioned employee retention going from 22% turnover down to 2%. That's pretty dramatic. What do you think was the single biggest driver of that change?
I don't think there was one big driver. We did loads of work on this. We knew that getting our teams engaged in what we needed to do was the key to success. And the fact that 22% of our people wanted to leave the business in a given time frame, we knew wasn't going to be good enough. So we did loads of stuff. I mean, let's start with some of the big stuff. Clarity around the leadership team, what their role was, both as leaders and as managers.
Okay, but when you say the leadership team, are you talking about frontline supervision, like plant management, or executive level?
Good question. Site level leadership. So I lead the leadership team here in Manchester. We create much more clarity around the purpose of that team. We sort of broke down the difference between some of the stuff that you have to do to manage your function and manage the day-to-day, and then what is it that you need to do to lead the site. So working on the business or working in the business is the language we use, and we've got dedicated meetings where we're working on the business. So that could be anything from engagement, communication. It might be around the lean operating model. There's all sorts of things that we're doing that are working on our systems to make them better, not just in our systems to keep that handle turning. So leadership team's the starting point, right? Get that shaped, make sure everyone's clear on their role there. A really strong communication plan. Something I heard fairly early when I joined was communication is poor. So we came up with a proper communication plan, which has got different avenues of communication, one way and two way. So we make sure we're getting the feedback as well, getting people so that they're listening, taking action on some of the things that we're hearing is good. We then did a lot on leadership training at all levels of the business. So all people leaders. Some people in many organizations, and this one was the same, some people have been promoted from within a team to running the team. They've not been given any training on how to lead a team. They've just been very good at what they did, and they're good people, but they haven't really been given the best chance. So we did some internal training, comes across in various different things. It goes from everything from what does a good one-to-one look like? What does a good appraisal review at the end of the year look like? How do you have a difficult or a productive conversation if somebody's not performing? How do you give recognition well? How do you coach, and what do good coaching questions look like? And then we really went quite hard on one-to-ones. So I'm a big believer that if you have regular one-to-ones with every member of your team, and this includes operating staff as well, so people who are working on the lines building product, they need one-to-ones every month. They need to have voices heard. They need to raise concerns. They need to be given some feedback. So we really did a lot of work on this, and it was amazing how much we thought it was okay. When you start really getting into the nuts and bolts of it, it wasn't. They weren't happening, or they weren't being effective when they were happening. So we created some structure and some templates, and we trained people, and we really spent a lot of time working on that as well. That was a big deal.
All right, hold on. Let me explore that a little bit, because that's very interesting. First question: when you got there, you had your site leadership team. Is the original team still there, or was there a change out of personnel? Or
There's been some changes, Yeah, not everyone's on the leadership team that were here when I joined, but also there's been some clarity around what it is that we should be doing.
yeah, no, that's good. That's good, and that's typical, right? How many people are on your team, your leadership team?
On the leadership team, there is 11. There's 11 in total.
So you come in, leadership team. Let's start doing these one-to-ones. Now, is this like a structured 360 review, or is it more just like we have a conversation and we document the issues? Because sometimes, where I'm coming from here is sometimes people complain because the 360 reviews are so complex, and you end up wasting a lot of effort just on the process. But it sounds like that you've been able to distill the value out of it without going overboard. Talk a little bit about that.
I suppose let's go back. The one-to-ones came out of I talked about employee engagement before. We did a Hoshin Camry exercise. We do one every year. We have done now for 3 years. Engagement came out of that, and what we found through some data of our own people was team members who are having effective one-to-ones have significantly higher engagement. That was a direct line that when we analyzed the data, and therefore we went, right, we're going to go big on one-to-ones, because what we believe is if we get the one-to-ones happening on the correct cadence and happening so that they're effective for both parties, we're going to improve engagement. So this was our sort of tool to try and influence the metric. How we go about it, it's nothing as complicated as a 360. In fact, it's much simpler than that. First of all, let's make sure that everybody is sitting down for half an hour a month and having that conversation. There's certain things that we talk about in there, and it could be follow-ups from the last review. It could be things that are concerns that need to be raised. It could be recognition that needs to be noted. And recognition will always be given in a timely manner, but it might be just to double down on that. I recognize that this was a great piece of work that you did. There might be some actions that come out of it. It might be checking in on the personal life as well. Is everything okay at home? I've noticed a difference.
Right. Oh, it's very important. Yeah.
But it's as simple as that. It's a standard template, and it's nothing more complex than a check-in, a bit of feedback, some things that are important. Is there anything that I need to communicate to you that you might not know about yet? And it's dedicated time to have that in a discussion in a safe space.
Along those lines, this is not tied to compensation, right? I mean, because you're having these every month. Sometimes people just once a year they sit down and they have feedback and they say, okay, and here's your pay for the next year, right? How was that managed in the context of the Mancunian Way?
Well, I guess it's both, right? So the thing that we all want to avoid is getting into our end of year review, which can link to compensation, and you get a shock and you say, well, hang on, I thought I was performing great and I've not had any feedback, and now you're telling me that I haven't got a great score. So this is part of that, right? That regular feedback. We have everything from reviewing the goals that have been set in the year for the more professional roles. For the team operator roles, we've developed a scorecard that measures against people, safety, quality, delivery, and cost. And there's a range of metrics that we talk to them about. And it's something that they can directly influence. They can change the dial on that if they want to. And what that means is those regular reviews, when we do get to an end of year, there shouldn't be any shocks.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's brilliant. I love that. I always, when I was in management, would tell people that, you should not be surprised about anything when it comes to evaluation, because that just says, as you point out, that communication is pure. It's poor. So, yeah, well, that sounds awesome. So that was one of the things that drove down the turnover. Anything else that jumps to mind?
I guess all of the stuff within the Mancunian Way that we just spoke about, right? So we had lots of initiatives around tools and systems, ways that they could improve work, problem solving, and the way that we deployed that. So effectively giving people new skills that they can use in their day-to-day work, stuff that allows them to communicate across teams and within their team. All of that stuff generally has made people's working lives better. We also do a lot of work for charity. So big sponsored walks. We work in women's health. We build products for women's health. Therefore, we do a lot of work with a local charity, Prevent Breast Cancer, and we can generate. We managed to do a big charity walk every year where everybody gets together, and it's great socially, but it's also great because we raise some money for a good cause. We do lots of stuff on site as well, lots of awareness for women's health and things like that.
So people then, before you got there, it sounds like you've tied them more to the mission, and it sounds like a mission. I mean, who's opposed to improving women's health, right? So it's something that everybody can get on board with.
Yeah, and tell you what, that's a big learning for me is I've always believed in purpose, but when you have a purpose which is to enable healthier lives everywhere, every day, which is what we do at Hologic, you see a huge amount of personal commitment for it. And I've seen grown men in tears when we share some of the promotional work that we do around the world, because we're literally changing. Everyone's got important people in their lives, right? Whether it's mothers, daughters, sisters, grandmas, and all the work we do can influence that. So people do get behind that, and they will go above and beyond. And it goes into that zone of discretionary effort when you recognize the impact that you have.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, let's change topics a little bit. You mentioned data cuts through all the chaos when it comes to problem solving. But getting people comfortable with data-driven decisions isn't always easy, especially on the shop floor. People might not be comfortable doing math. How do you build that capability, or have you built that capability? How's that working in your organization?
Yeah, so I guess when I joined, there's an awful lot of opinion when you go into a problem statement or when you start trying to solve a problem. So we came up with a structured framework as to how we're going to solve problems, and they're graded depending on how big the problem is. It's fairly straightforward in the wrap. We use the Lean Enterprise Academy to help us train with this. It's a company in the UK, and they're fantastic.
Yeah, I'm familiar with them. Yep.
Is a 4C methodology: concern, contain, cause, and countermeasure. I'm sure many of your viewers will have used before. But what's really good is each one of those C's, we don't allow to move on until we're really satisfied we've got there. So you've got to demonstrate that you're not going to move on based on an opinion. So even in that problem definition, what exactly is the problem? What is your desired state that you're trying to get to? What is the gap in numbers? And as soon as we start training people in that and mandating that needs to be as part of your problem statement before we allow you to move on to the shiny problem solving techniques, that people start to realize that it's important. You also then get the opportunity to ask coaching questions in the report outs or the part way through report outs, which is, how could we measure that? You tell me that's a problem. How could we measure it? What would be a way? You don't have data today, but there might be a way we could collect some data on it. How could we prove you're telling me this is a problem? How could we prove it with a number? Let's think about what number we could use. So naturally people jump to, well, my system, in our systems, our production systems, and then Oracle and SOP, we don't measure that. Okay. So let's go and get a pen and paper and let's go tally how many times that happens within a given period. Then we've got a little bit of data, right? And then we might try and reduce that over a period of time. And another question we might ask would be, you want to make this improvement. What do you expect to happen? You're going to make a change. What do you expect to happen? Let's talk about what you expect to happen, because it's going to make you start thinking about, it's not just a let's find out. It's a let's make a scientific guess and we'll see where it lands. When we do rapid problem solving linked with our quality work, we assign buddies, problem solving buddies. They're from our CI team. We've got 3 members in our CI team. They are much more au fait with the problem solving, and they're much more they know what the expectation is, and therefore they know that they're going to have to come to the room and talk with data. The other thing that's been really helpful is when we're going in the very early stages of a problem, we would use NOT analysis, if you're familiar with that. So what do we know? What do we need to know? What's an opinion? And what do we think? people will say, well, we know this. And if somebody can't come and demonstrate that with a bit of evidence, usually a bit of data, then actually we put it in the need to know category. And then the obvious next action is, let's go and everything that's in the need to know, let's go and get it so that we know it. So let's go and find some evidence. Let's go and do down in the shop floor, down at the machine, whatever it might be. Let's go and get some evidence to prove this one way or the other. And that helps people again with let's get some evidence or some data to prove this.
Okay, so an anecdotal example of that was when we actually conducted some operations science workshops, because we use math and we talk about science and the basic relationships between cycle time utilization, WIP and throughput, and variability and cycle time. And the guy came back a couple of weeks after that and he goes, man, this is great. He said, we thought we had 30 problems and 60 different solutions because we got 30 people in the shop and each person has 2 opinions. But once we understood the concepts in operations science, what we realized is we have 4 problems and everybody is focused on solving those problems. And so the idea with operations science and why we do podcasts and why we wrote operations science is for those problem solving techniques. If you have the underlying science, people aren't wondering, if it's something they need to know. And that really just takes out a lot of upfront work, and it takes out a lot of chaos from different opinions. But it sounds like you guys have been very effective in terms of applying the data to your solutions. So now people are kind of conditioned to that when there's an issue. Is there a particular example of that you have?
We've got loads. I mean, I think of a specific example. I don't have anything off the top of my head, but I mean, what I would say is, as soon as people get used to talking with data, the emotion comes out of it, right? So if you've got 2 people disagreeing and they know that we're going to go down this avenue of we're going to talk with data, and we say, let's just go prove it one way or the other, because you can't argue with it. That's the beauty of it, right? It becomes unemotional. It takes all of the opinion out of it, and it allows people to say, oh, I didn't realize that. I'm surprised by that result. I thought it was going to go that way and it actually went that way. So isn't that interesting? Let's dig into that a bit further. And everybody starts coming together rather than sort of butting heads on it. Everyone comes together and starts looking at the data and looking at what they might want to do next. So I've probably got loads of examples, but nothing jumps to mind off the top of my head.
So do you guys focus, basic operation science mechanics is, you need to know where your bottleneck is. Do you do the calculations to understand that? Does everybody understand that? And then maybe how it might change different depending on product mix?
We would know where our bottlenecks are there's 2 elements to it, right? There's bottlenecks within the overall value stream. There's bottlenecks within the process. Bottlenecks within the process, we've got a pretty good handle on. We know the different cycle times of the different processes on a line, and we sort of see where the inventory builds up and then burns down. We've had some really good examples where rapid problem solving has allowed us to say, I'm constantly getting inventory build up here. And when you go and have a look, actually some of the settings have been changed and certain things are running faster than they should be. So actually, in that case, it might be a case of let's just go back to standard and reset those. In terms of the value stream, we would catch that through value stream mapping, and you'd start to see. So a good example, we mapped our pilot value stream. We were looking at the inventory in between all of the different cells, the different departments that we have in that value stream. And all of the inventory at that point is unconstrained. So if you want to keep an asset running to utilize your equipment and make sure that everything looks good financially, you can run your non-bottleneck asset and it can pile up in the warehouse. And we did see that. We saw that we'd probably been doing that and I don't think it was, nobody was doing it on purpose, but we were doing it just because we were in the middle of it. When we came up with our future state design, we put some controls in place about how we allow inventory to flow. What's the maximum number of batches that we allow to sit in between 2 processes? And, we're talking about over £1 million worth of inventory. Straight away it had gone. It had no impact on the downstream flow. What it did mean is that when the downstream process started to struggle and fall behind and the FIFO lane filled up, you would end up stopping the upstream process. And all of a sudden, that creates an urgency, creates a burning platform. We then cross-trained the 2 teams. So as soon as this team starts to struggle, this team goes on stop. They've got nothing to do. So we said, well, you go and learn this, and we can create capacity over here, and flow improves. And we had some really good examples of where, one, you're cross-training, so you're developing people. They get to learn some new skills. People understand the overall value stream and better. But also, we just improve flow and we keep inventory down, so we're not tying up the company's cash.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's a great way to flexible capacity is a great way to manage variability in the operation science construct. And the other thing about that, so that's very similar to case study use case for operation science and medical. I mean, the point is operation science we doesn't apply everywhere. It's not very good science, but same sort of thing happened. And what I thought I heard you say is we had teams trained on a process center close to them in the process, right? They're not cross-trained on everything, but they're able to move to one or two places, which sounds like a very nice balance back to the balance between people and processes. Is that right?
Well, in this example, the team that we were training, they were training on the area that was struggling to get the throughput, and therefore the FIFO. So that maybe they had an issue, maybe they lost the machine for a couple of days, and therefore the FIFO lane filled up and everything goes on stop. We train the people to go and help add capacity to that area. It pulls it all through and allows them to get back to their normal department. So that's worked really well. And the feedback from the team has been great. They're learning a new process and they're doing something a bit different. And therefore, when times get hard, we can move those people around, and they do so in the right way. They enjoy that, and it's been good for everybody.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I think that's very good intuition in terms of how to manage resources. Back to that nursing example, they had consultants come in and they're like, oh, we're going to train the nurses just to go anywhere, right? And so that would be in your plant, having people cross-trained to do everything in the operation, but that's overkill, right? I mean, first of all, it makes people uncomfortable because nobody can master everything. And second of all, it kind of decreases the quality of the help that you get. And they came up with solutions similar to what you came up with, which was basically we'll train people to help in the area next to them when it goes down because it's a constraint. We need to keep it going as much as possible. So, yeah, that's the science. That's sort of the curse of operation science. You see it everywhere once you get it in your head. So you've talked about a lot of great change efforts. And it sounds like you've been able to sustain those. And that's always a problem, right? Because people come in, they do Kaizens, everybody's like, oh, this is great. And then it kind of just peters out. What have you found to be the key factors to be able to sustain the effort over long term?
Right. There's a few things. So let's take Kaizen events. So we've come up with a pretty good, in my opinion, Kaizen event planning process. In that we have a 6-month pipeline. So we know what we're doing for every week over the 6-month period. We know what's coming, and that's great because it allows people to get excited about it. We then do 4 weeks worth of prep. So there's preparation leading up to the Kaizen event to make sure it's a huge investment at Kaizen event. Let's not get into the room and realize we've missed something. So 4 weeks worth of prep, which has got check sheets and make sure that we've got everything that we need to have a successful day. And that could be anything from data to booking the room to ordering lunch to making sure invites are out and everybody's got that time red ringed. After the Kaizen event, we do a 30, 60, 90-day sustainment check. And what's required out of that 30, 60, 90 is determined by the team in the Kaizen event. So it could be anything from some open actions that need closing in order to move on. It could be certain metrics that we've said we want to move the dial on in order for the Kaizen to be successful. And we don't claim the Kaizen event is successful until we get through that 30, 60, 90-day check. That's been quite a big game changer because it's very easy to come out of the Kaizen event. You're super excited about everything you've just done. Then you get back to your day job. And do you know what? I'm trying to run production. I've got a problem here and something over there. And my boss is asking me for a report. It's really hard to stay on top of it. So we have the leadership team, site leadership team at that board every week to say what's coming. What's the Kaizen event that's going on? So we're all fully aware of what improvement activity is happening. What's the 30, 60, 90? Have you got any blockers? How can we help you with it? So that's the first part of my answer. The second part of any sustainment, and let's use 5S because it's probably the simplest. 5S, if it doesn't get checked, will fall over. In the best culture, in the best environment, if it doesn't have some level of opportunity for leaders to go and see the area, give recognition if it's been upheld, give some feedback if you think it's slipping. Is the system working? And do I need to do anything with the system? And I think that needs to happen at every layer of the business. So tiered management, tiered accountability is key. And we do that through a commission buy system, red, green cards, certain things that I commit to do every week, certain things that my team agree to do every week. And what I have on mine is once a week, I might go and see how they're getting on with their tiered management. With their tiered accountability, their commission by cards. So I'm checking on them. They're checking on their teams. 5S is getting checked. I'll also go and check 5S at a lower frequency. And if I go and check 5S and it's not standard, and my team are saying that they've been checking 5S, I'm probably not having a conversation with the local team. I'm probably trying to understand why they've not been flagging it earlier. So if you get that system so that it's balanced, it works really effectively. You do have to have the time out for it, and you do have to take it seriously, which is why having it on in the front of my office that everybody can see, they know if it's got to the end of the week and I've still got a load of red cards in my T card holder, I've probably had a bad week. Sort of helps you make sure that you get it done.
Yeah. That constant feedback and reinforcement is important. So, James, let's shift gears and talk about James O'Sullivan, the man. Where'd you grow up, and who or what influenced you that led you to where you are today?
Sure. Where I grew up was a place called Bolton in the northwest of England, which is part of that greater Manchester bubble. So I've always been in this sort of area. Fairly early on in my school academic career, this college that I was at did a school and college started putting more focus on technical vocational skills. And I got on some of those courses early as in their pilot phase, which was really good for me. Bit of coaching from my dad. He helped me, guide me a little bit in terms of what I wanted to do next.
Was he an engineer, or was he mechanically oriented?
Yeah, manufacturing engineer, ran some businesses doing manufacturing. So sort of gets that and gets the people leadership element of it as well.
Awesome.
And then got to university, had a good time at university and enjoyed it. That was probably where I sort of started to really understand what I wanted and put some real effort in, if I'm honest. And I had some really good results out of university and did a master's. And then my first real job was with GKN, predominantly with their aerospace division, but it was on a leadership development program. And what that gave me was a huge amount of experience early. Lots of good mentorship, lots of exposure in different countries and different processes, automotive, aerospace, agricultural, sinter metals. I just got a lot thrown at me, and they were developing their next level leaders, and that worked really well. And I stayed with GKN for a long time and climbed through various roles in various countries. So I got to travel as well, which was great at the time of life that I was at. So that's sort of my, if I was to say it in 60 seconds, that's where I was. And then I decided I was going to leave GKN because I wanted to come back up to the north, and they didn't have any sites up in the north of England. We just had my daughter, and we wanted to settle up in the north, a bit closer to family, and left GKN. I actually took a secondment for a year and then joined Hologic in 2022, and here I am today.
So was your daughter the artist of those pictures behind you?
She is she's the artist.
That's daily inspiration.
Yeah, that's it. That's why I'm here, I suppose, is making sure that and you never know, maybe she's going to be following my footsteps and do a bit of go down a technical route or a STEM route as well.
That'd be great. We need as many women in STEM as we can get. So let's question, what do you do outside of work to relax?
Most of the time I'm on my bike, cycling. I find it to be, when I ride my bike, it's a really nice time that you can get a couple of hours to yourself where you're doing something, but you also get a lot of time to clear your mind and think and solve problems. Also, it keeps a little bit of weight off and tries to keep me fit as well. So I love cycling my bike whenever I can find time. Traveling with my family. Like I say, we took a secondment. We traveled around Europe, just the three of us at the time. Traveled, did 12 countries in 9 months, living out of a camper van. So different cultures, different people, solving problems along the way, language barriers, all that sort of fun stuff that was a bit of an adventure, and we had a great time doing that.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. When you're talking about cycling, you're talking about road biking, right?
Predominantly, just because it's easier and I can get on a road immediately, but I also do a bit of gravel biking and a bit of off-road biking as well. But most of the time I'm on the roads just because, to be honest, it's easier and I can just get on it and I can get an hour in.
Yeah. Well, that's beautiful country around there.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. I've been there. It's really pretty. Well, listen, thanks so much for spending time today to talk about and relate your experiences, because you've got some great experiences, some great best practices, and it's just been a great conversation. I appreciate your time, and I'm sure the audience will also.
I've loved it. Thank you for inviting me, and it's been really interesting to take your science operations, the science element of operations from your viewpoint as well. It's left me with a few thinking points. So thank you.
Sounds great. Well, we'll be talking. Thanks again. Have a great day.
Cheers. Thanks. Bye-bye.
The Operations Science Podcast requires more than a conversation. It takes action, research, and collective wisdom. If today's episode resonated with you, we'd love to hear your insights. Join the conversation and help us shape the future together. Join the Operations Science Institute at opscience.org. We'll be back with more stories, strategies, and real-world solutions that are making a difference for everyone. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe, rate, write a review, and share it with someone you think would benefit from it too. Thanks for listening, and see you on the next episode. The views expressed by our guests are their own and do not represent their company's views unless specifically stated as such.